Okay, we are back with video number 5. We're gonna take 10 minutes to recap what we did on the last 4 videos. This is gonna go really fast, and then we will create a class to manage serial communications. So I have a new project set up here. It's an empty project. It's called Gyro Demo Recap. So first, one of the things we did is we specify uh, the speed of the processor. So we went to the maximum, which is 64 megahertz, and then we enable the output pins for controlling the 3 LEDs on the board, and we enable serial communication. We enable also the global interrupt for that serial communication. Change the baud rate to 9600. Named the pins to correspond with the color of the LED connected to each pin. So that one was red. This one is yellow, and the next one is LED green. Okay, so generate the code. That's all the configuration we had on the previous video. Now we're gonna add just the code we added on the last 4 videos. Again, this is gonna go quick. We're just gonna start typing code. First thing we did is we added our variables for collecting data. So actually, yeah. So the variables for collecting data, one of them is the TX rating. So this is just for interrupt. Actually, before we go into that, let's copy the 2 callback functions from the driver serial communication. And we want this function here. And we'll put it here. We also need this one. And inside this function is where we specify the TX rating is set to 1. We have it there. And this one, we capture data. We capture 1 character at a time. So we declare a local variable and assign whatever data we had at the time, the character we had. This still needs to be defined. And then we call a function to pass this data across. Then we call a function to receive the next character or wait for the next character to come in. And it's going to be RxC, size is 1. And we need to copy this at the beginning, just before the loop. And since we're here, we might as well add the main CPP function that is going to be on the C++ side of it. So now let's go define this stuff here. Right here is going to be of 1 character. We also need a buffer for transmitting. Let's call it buffer size 50. And we had a log here, void log. Now we're not going to name it log this time because that's a built-in function. So we're going to call it _i, log _i, and it takes an array of characters plus an array of parameters. And in this one, what do we need? Let's see. So we're passing the data. Okay, we need to check to see if TX rating is set to 1, and in this case we're going to say if it's not equals to 1, then we just want to return. I know it's different than the one we did before, but it should make it cleaner that it'll get to this line and get out if we're not allowed to send data. Then we'll set text ready equals 0, indicating that we're busy sending data, and create a list for the arguments coming in. We'll specify the start of those arguments. They start at data, and then we'll use vsprintf to copy those arguments into our tx buffer using the whatever format we have in data, and then adding those arguments there. We end it, and then we send it, and we send it using this interrupt function. So the data we're sending is buffer, and the size is whatever the size of that buffer, not the 50 characters, but whatever number of characters it has. And we also need a few includes, one to have access to that type, and another one to have access to this one, I think. Let's see. Well, I know we are going to need the first for that the argument list. So that one is arguments, and the other one, memory. Do we need one for memory? No. In any case, we are going to include something we will need down the line anyway. So stdio h. Let's compile it. We'll get some errors because it doesn't know what this main function is. This one here. Outside of that, we shouldn't have any issues. All right. So while this compiles, so there's the errors it's having. So one error here, it doesn't know what this is, and it doesn't know what that is either. So let's take care of that. Let's go to or bring up the main header file. Go to the bottom. We will add main CPP and void rx character. Now this is still going to have problems, so I'm not going to compile it because those do not exist yet. So let's go take care of the C++ side of it, where this function resides. So we right click on the project, new source folder, call it CPP. Inside that new folder, we're adding two regular folders, one inc for include, another one src for source. Inside source, we add a source file, and we're going to call it main CPP. On the previous video, we called it main CPP.cpp. We're just changing the name. In this one, we want access to main.h. We also want to have access to the C functions, well, one of them, and it'll be the log ni data, and that's it. We also need our main CPP function and our loop. Okay, so now I should be able to compile because we added this function. Oh, we need one more. We need the rx. Okay, so it'll give me an error, but I'll compile again, and there won't be any errors after this. So let me compile once again. All right, you can see 0 errors. So just to test, GPIO toggle LED green port, LED green 10. So right now you see the red LED blinking. We're gonna change it so it's the green one. So it's gonna stop. This one has code from the previous video. Let's put a delay of 100, make it 500, and we'll download it. And first time we run this project, so we specify the programmer, the ST-Link version 2, and you'll see that instead of blinking the red LED, it will blink the next one. There it is. So now it's the green LED blinking. So up to this point, we are where we left off on video number 4, minus the code we had here. Now we're going to add a class to manage serial communication. So that would be it. So we're at minute 11. So let's right click on CPP. We are adding a new class. The class is going to be HM11. You can name it whatever you want, something more generic, so it's easier to reuse by just seeing the name. It gave us 2 files. So it gave us a header file and a source file. The header can be moved to INC, and the source or the CPP to source. And let me move this to the side so we see both files. Header on the left, source on the right. Let's compile it. Let's see what errors we get right from the beginning. So we have errors. First error is it doesn't know where this file is. We have it inside that folder. I can get to it by just putting double dots or periods, which means go up one folder, and then one folder from where I'm at right now. Go up one folder, and I don't know how I got rid of the H. Anyways, go up one folder and then come back on this folder, and that would be where the file resides, and that will compile. But that's not what we want, because that requires us to know exactly where each file is all the time. So what we do is we go to the project settings, and under general paths and symbols includes, we add it. It's going to be a workspace folder, CPP include, click OK, check for all configurations and all languages, apply and close. Now we compile again. Working, because that is not crapping out on the error right away. So while that goes on, I'm going to start adding more code. Oh, it's not going to let me. I have to wait. All right. Any case, it compiled, no errors. Oh man, did I forget to switch this thing? All right. All right, so we need to add a few private variables and some public. We also need some public functions. Let's start with the private variables. We need something to tell us that we have a new message. We need a character count. Count equals 0. For public, well, for private, let's go private again. So we need also a buffer to keep track of the characters we're getting, to store them in a place where we can access them. In public, we also need a buffer named field. The commands we're going to be getting from the phone are 2-part commands. It has a field name, a delimiter, and then the value. So we need to get to the field name and the value. And the value could either be a name or an actual number. So this one's going to be 50. We also need one for the value string, 50 as well, and a double for the value if we get it. we also want a message here. So once we're done, as we get a character, we'll store that in buffer. Once we get a full command, we'll change it back, swap it back to message. And function wise, we need two. We need one to say is add character, right? And the other one, parse command. There we go. All right, so let's see what this does. Let's compile it, make sure we don't have any errors. I believe that's all we need here. We need one more. So we need a flag, and this is to be public, that tells us we have a new message. Okay. So now let's start by adding the character. So HM11 and this add character, character C. Here we add the old code where we say if C is equals to the next carriage return, or C equals line feed, or the character count is more or equals to 50, then we can say we have a new message. And we'll transfer the message using sprint for simplicity. We can use memory copy, that's your choice. I'm sure memory copy is faster, but just for simplicity we'll use sprintf. We're gonna pass it to message, and it will be a string, and we're moving the buffer over, or copying it over. Now we're gonna clear the buffer. So in this case we are using memset buffer. We're gonna fill it up with zeros. We specify new message. Is that what it's called? New. Alright, so obviously there's an error here, so let's compile and see why it's not giving me the next one. Well, what's the error here? Message private. So let's add the includes to get rid of those errors. We need a string for memory access, and the IO for printing access. Let's compile again. Okay, no errors. So new message, there it goes, equals 1. Character count equals 0. And if it's not any of those flags, then we just add the new character to the buffer. So buffer character count, increase it by 1, equals C. Next function is the parse command. So HM11 parse command, and in this one we need to create a local buffer. So let's just call it temp. It's gonna be size 50, and we are going to copy the data. And again, you can use sprint for simplicity, or copy. We're just gonna use sprintf temp, and we copy the message, not the buffer. Sorry, so the buffer contents are transferred to message in this once we get a full message, and then it clears it. So buffer has nothing in it. We're getting message, we're transferring it to temp, we're copying the contents into temp. Now we need a pointer to split the message based on the delimiter, and the function to split the message strtoc we give it a delimiter, and it's going to return a pointer to the first part of the message it finds, if it finds that delimiter. So now that we have that, we can use sprintf again. And here we're gonna, the command has the field, then the delimiter, and the value. So we're getting the field, and here we just put the pointer. Actually, it should be PTR, not PRT. Okay. Then we call the strtoc, or string token, again, and instead of putting temp again, we're just going to specify null to tell it this is just a continuation. Give me the next part of this command. We do have to specify the delimiter though, and we use printf again. Jesus. All right. Yes, printf, and here we put the value string, and we put ptr. Now we want to convert whatever we got here. See, we can convert it to an actual number. So we put value, which is this right here, right? And we use the I don't know what A stands for, to integer value string, and I believe that is it. The next thing we need to do is we want to clear this flag, new message. So when we parse it, we can safely assume that we already know we have a new message, and we decided to parse it, so we don't have to do a separate call to parse that flag. So let me compile, make sure everything works correctly. We have 3 errors, and that will be due to oh, this is different. So let's see. 2 errors. Doesn't know what this is, so we need to add an include, or we need to include a header for this one. And this should be what is it? std library thinking. Let's see. Standard lib. Okay, good to go. So now that we have the class, we can go to our main CPP function or file, and in this here, well, here first we need to include the header for HM11, and once we have that, we can specify we have an HM11 class, and we're going to say phone, and the phone has the capability of adding a character, right? And now that we have that, we can check to see if phone has a new message, and if it does, then we can say go ahead and parse the command, and then we can send the data back to the phone. So we're gonna show it in different parts. So we want to see what the field is. We also want to see what the value string is, or just put value s to make it short. And last, we want to see the actual value number. This is going to be a float, so let's put 2 decimal points, and we specify the first the phone field name, right, and then the phone value string. Here we go, and then the phone value. There's one more thing we need to do, because, well, let's run it first. So let me compile it first. Make sure everything compiles. Let me download it to the unit here, and then we're going to see it on the phone. and I need to configure the phone, so let me switch. Let's put we want it. Delete that. We want a console right there. Let's make it bigger, same as before. 400 by 500. Make this 20 lines. Okay. Let's add a button. And this button is gonna send where is it? So it's gonna send click. Actually, let's just put gyro, and the value, let's call it on. Okay, so when we press it, it says gyro on, right? It's sending it here. You see it's lighting up, right? See, when I press it, the green LED turns on and off, right? The connection is already in place because I had this is the same setup I had for the previous video. So the issue here, now you saw that the entire message came in here. It's pretty long. That's what, because we don't have control return. I keep forgetting that for some reason. Alright, so if I press this again, oh, it's still downloading. Hold on. So let me press it again. Okay, so there it is. So we see the field name is gyro. So line 26 is what we sent to the phone. Line 27 is what came back to us. Let me make it bigger. So line 27, field name gyro, value string is on, and the value itself is nothing. Now it should be 0 because we're trying to convert something to a number, and if it's not convertible by default, it'll be 0. And let's change that to, say, instead of on, let's say, actually let's put 20, and let's put some on in it. So it said 20 on. So when we press it, we get the value back as 20 on. Value still doesn't say anything. It should say 20 and ignore the on, the actual text. And the reason it's doing that is because we need to add a flag to the linker. Switch this. So we go to project. It's not able to display floats. So that's what it's doing. So projects, properties. We go to, where is it? Settings. Yeah. And we go to the G++ linker, miscellaneous. It's -u space underscore printf underscore float. Click OK, apply and close. We will compile this again and download it to the phone. Switch the view, and let's wait for this to finish. Still downloading. Done. Okay, so now you see that we have gyro. The field is gyro, the value is 20 on, and the number value is 20. So, you know, if we just remove the on part, and let's just put a number 77. Now we have 77, value is 77. So now we can send any type of data and we'll be able to recognize it. Why is this important? Well, you can now you can start adding settings to your projects where you can turn on features on the project. You know, you can enable, disable software if you want to. If you wanted to turn on the red LED, you can just put a command here, add the code on this side to say if this command comes across, turn it on. If this other command comes across, then turn it off. You know, you can change settings. For instance, in this gyro, if you're not able to set it in a flat surface, you may want to be able to update the offset from your phone. whenever you configure it, so you don't have to hard code it. And then if you have to put it somewhere else, now you have to program it again. By giving you access through the phone, you can configure anything you want, providing you add the code to handle those commands. So that's it for video number 5. On the next video, we are going to access the gyroscope. So we'll start getting orientation data, sending it back to the phone, and that will be followed by creating the class to manage the mini NRF wireless transceiver. So till next video, enjoy.